What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to be going over what kind of video card you should be looking to get if you're a streamer in 2021. Let's go ahead and let's get right to it. NVIDIA. They seem to have streamers in mind with their current generation of graphics cards known as the RTX series. And I'm mentioning RTX series specifically and not really GTX because the RTX series will be the only one that will let you use the NVIDIA broadcast software. This software is really nice. It lets you do things like a green screen if you don't have a green screen. It lets you get some really good background noise removal on your microphone. And it can also make your webcam look like a DSLR camera. It'll focus on you and then it can blur everything out behind you. If you're not able to get an RTX series and you get a GTX, you won't be able to use that software, but you will still be able to use NVIDIA NVENC. It'll be a little bit lesser version of what the RTX series has, but it can still at least do NVENC. Now, let me show you what the broadcast software can actually do. Let's enable the blur. So there, it makes it look like we have a DSLR camera. And if you want, you can enable the background replacement, which is basically green screen. Now, it's not perfect, so you may see a little bit of like imperfections happening there. But as long as you have good lighting, you're a good distance, you're not like some weird angle from the camera, everything should work just fine. Try to stand still. If this is going to be something that you're using for trying to record people that are moving around, this kind of software probably isn't going to work and you're going to want an actual green screen. But in most cases, I really feel like this will work for you. Now let's take a look at the performance of an RTX 3080 graphics card, specifically the EVGA XC3 Ultra, while streaming and using their encoder NVENC. It's good to note that while NVENC is pretty impressive, it's not going to be replacing a 2PC stream anytime soon, especially if you plan on using NVENC and Broadcaster at the same time, as they're quite taxing to your computer. I've found that while using NVENC and playing games such as Cyberpunk 2077, you may want to limit the amount of FPS that Cyberpunk's actually getting. That way you can keep the game running smooth and your stream running smooth. Without it, you may be running into some weird things. I'm always trying to use DLSS when possible. If not, you got to work with the downscaling, but in most cases, it seems to work pretty well. If you don't know what NVENC is, don't worry. All you need to know is it's going to be doing the encoding, and the encoding is one of the main things that would normally cause frame drops to your games when you're trying to stream. Now let's take a look at Cyberpunk 2077. We're going to be streaming 1080p 60 FPS and ultra settings, no ray tracing. Up in the top left, we've got an average of about 115 FPS, which is pretty darn good for a 1PC setup. Now let's take a look at just how it would run when we're not streaming and not using ray tracing. Getting about the same thing, and this is the kind of FPS that you definitely be aiming for if you're wanting to play a game like Cyberpunk 2077. Next, let's take a look and see how it runs with ray tracing. Now, sadly, if we're going to stream with ray tracing, the easiest way that I could get this to work would be to cap the FPS at 60, which is why it doesn't go over 60, and I had to use the NVIDIA DLSS Ultra Performance, which makes the resolution look a little bit worse, but it still doesn't look that bad, and you're at least able to stream with ray tracing. This is just how it looks with ray tracing, DLSS balanced, not streaming. Looks pretty good. We are getting actually a much higher FPS because we're no longer capped. Now let's take a look at Horizon Zero Dawn. Right here, we're probably going to be getting an average of around 82 FPS. That's not bad. What you're going to notice is that when we're not streaming, there's going to be a bit of a performance bump there. Probably going to be hitting around 90 FPS. And, I mean, either way, that's still playable. I'm sure this game was originally capped at 60 FPS on the PS4 anyway. So you can play on either. Here's Battlefield 5. We're going to be streaming 1080p 60 Ultra with ray tracing. Going to get probably an average of 83 to 84 FPS. Now, when we are not streaming, there will be a bit of a performance bump here. Not much, but it is there. There's going to be an even bigger bump whenever we move on to no ray tracing and streaming. Right here, you're noticing we're around 130, 140 FPS. So that's with streaming, which is pretty darn good. And then we're going to be moving on without streaming, and we get an even bigger bump to around 170 FPS, which this card is impressive. That's it, guys. Right now, I'd only be recommending the RTX graphics cards by NVIDIA to anyone that's going to be streaming, preferably the RTX 30 series. The broadcast software and NVENC are just a great addition to your arsenal of streaming tools, especially if you're going to try and compare this to the competitor. AMD Radeon graphics cards just don't seem to have that much to offer for the streamers. Now, AMD Radeon graphics cards technically outperform the RTX 30 series in certain areas, such as 1080p gaming. This is just due to the way that NVIDIA actually engineered their card. They actually run better at higher resolutions, not lower ones. AMD graphics drivers still seem to be buggy, and their own version of NVENC is also quite buggy. If you have any questions or anything at all, please leave a comment down below.